Now available in paperback and e-readers, Isis, Samurai Goddess. The goddess next door takes on kung fu killers in this action-packed martial arts Isis series adventure. Get Isis, Samurai Goddess in paperback and e-readers today. A lot of YouTubers who have partner channels are noticing that their revenue stream is declining. And they notice that the amount of money they used to make has dropped significantly over the last couple of weeks. And this is something many YouTubers are calling the YouTube AdPocalypse. What is the YouTube AdPocalypse? Well, the YouTube AdPocalypse is something that is happening because many corporations who used to put ads on YouTube, on partner channels, are pulling their sponsorship from YouTube because they feel that much of the content on some channels is considered offensive. And many of the channels that have noticed serious precipitous drops are channels that relate to viewpoints that fit different narratives. Now, these channels may include channels that promote men's issues, such as MGTOW channels, channels about the goth subculture, and channels that feature content that relates to African American men. And I've noticed this drop, significantly even on my channel. And I've noticed it because I look at the revenue that I was making before this AdPocalypse and compare it to today, and it's a significant drop. And I look at this whole YouTube AdPocalypse as something that's really been politically motivated by many of these liberals out here, because many of these liberals in Hollywood and mainstream media, they really do not like the viewpoints being presented here on YouTube, because what YouTube does, it allows people to broadcast themselves. And what we're seeing now from corporate sponsors is that they don't want people to broadcast themselves if they are presenting a counterpoint to the narratives they want to present in mainstream media. It's okay for people to broadcast themselves if they want to produce something like a cat video, or they want to produce something like a twerk video where black women are shaking their butt in front of the screen, or there are two black men going back and forth in an argument with each other, or there is cooning and buffooning. That's okay for these liberals in mainstream media, in the big six media. They don't mind that type of content. However, whenever you start talking about things that are counter to their narratives, and you start talking about counterpoints such as many of the people in the MGTOW movement do when they're talking about men's issues, and when black men are talking about men's issues, they have a problem. Moreover, they have a problem with people who promote alternative lifestyles like the goth subculture, because when they promote their subculture and present the truth about it, it pretty much shatters and refutes many of the stereotypes that many of these liberals have. You see, when it comes down to this liberal, what he wants to do is he's all about tolerance as long as you're presenting the narrative that he wants to present. And he does not like the idea of people being able to present counterpoints on a platform or a social media platform, because when people present those counterpoints, they can't sell their ideas in mainstream media. And when it comes down to mainstream media such as television, radio, and the movies, they have noticed significant declines over the last couple of years due to new media emerging such as YouTube, Hulu, Netflix, and Vimeo, and they want to stem those losses. So what they're doing is they're pulling their sponsorship off of social media to prevent social media from competing with them, because they want to have the ability to manufacture stars. And it's hard to do that when some guy with a camera is broadcasting himself, or a group of people are broadcasting themselves on social media, presenting narratives that pretty much counter them, and the narratives that pretty much refute them, and promoting products that aren't going to be pushed in the mainstream. They don't want to see other competition rising and elevating themselves and taking itself to the next level. So you have many of these liberal companies with liberal-leaning views wanting to pull their ads off of YouTube, and that's what's leading to this AdPocalypse. Moreover, what also is leading to this AdPocalypse is the fact that Hillary Clinton lost the election of 2016. Now, the 2016 election was a very nasty race, and it was a very heated race. And a lot of people in the liberal circles believe that Donald Trump got a lot of momentum built as a result of social media, and that social media pretty much elevated Donald Trump to win the presidency, because a lot of people got on social media talking about how they supported Donald Trump. And this really got a lot of liberals upset. The fact that social media was able to galvanize people and create that grassroots campaign and help push it, that's what makes a lot of liberals upset, because it shows the power of social media and the power of the people to use social media to pretty much build momentum for a candidate that does not fit the narrative of the liberal. But when you look at the big picture of this liberal as it relates to this YouTube AdPocalypse, it pretty much shows the hypocrisy that this liberal has regarding freedom of speech and freedom of expression. Again, when it comes down to this liberal, it's okay for you to have freedom of speech and freedom of expression as long as you're promoting the narratives that the liberal wants pushed in mainstream media. However, once you start going outside of that narrative and start creating your own narrative, that's when this liberal starts to have problems with people. And that's when you see liberal sponsors or people with liberal viewpoints or companies with liberal viewpoints like the New York Times, like Starbucks, and many others talking about how they want to pull their ads because there are some channels on YouTube that pretty much present racist views or views that do not reflect their ideas or their products. And the great irony is that when I look at a company like Starbucks, I noticed that many people in the goth subculture, they were carrying Starbucks cups. And they didn't understand that the YouTube AdPocalypse, one of the companies that pulled, was Starbucks. And it was really sad to see that, because you don't see how you're alienating one of the core customer groups that you have that has been going out of their way to endorse your products by saying you're going to pull ads off of those channels, because those channels pretty much are the ones that are pretty much spending the money on your products. And this is something that many of these liberals don't see in the big picture, because they are emotional knee-jerk reacting instead of understanding that the platform for media is changing and that the views are going to change, because now we have more people presenting their views, and that's a good thing, because we do need counterpoints in the media in order to keep the country balanced. When you have no counterpoints and you only have one set of views, then what happens is you have a populace that pretty much is disconnected and lost. And I look at this YouTube AdPocalypse as something that was, socially engineered and passive aggressively being done to eliminate other viewpoints, especially the viewpoints of people who present different views of things, such as people in the men's movement, people who wear MGTOWs, black men, and people in the goth subculture. They want to eliminate those views so they can continue pushing the narrative they have in the mainstream media as a social norm. So they go out of their way to not, these corporate sponsors go out of their way to say they're not going to sponsor ads on YouTube. And what they do is they cut the revenue off for many of those content providers. Now, many of these content providers who I've watched their channels on the regular, what happens with them is that these guys pretty much, they have made YouTube their living, they have made it their career, and this is the only revenue they have coming in. So when they see the AdPocalypse coming, they are forced to take drastic measures, such as taking their videos off of YouTube and trying to find another way to make a living, because they pretty much need that ad revenue pretty much to make a living off of. I know myself, I need I need that ad revenue because I've been out of work for 8 years, and that's one of the few revenue streams that I have. And what YouTube is trying to do, and these liberals are trying to do, is they're trying to silence people and censor people in a passive-aggressive way. They feel that if there is no money coming in from these YouTube ads, many of the people who have counterpoints, what they're going to do is they're going to stop producing content, and once they stop producing content, they can go back to producing things that fit within the liberals' narrative for America and for the world. They can continue pushing the viewpoints that they want pushed in the world as social norms. And that without a YouTube there, with people producing content that runs counter to it, they have no one to challenge their ideas. Again, this is a passive-aggressive form of censorship, and its goal is to silence people who want to broadcast themselves and present their counterpoints on a platform. These corporations pretty much want to hijack the YouTube platform in a passive-aggressive way and shut it down so they can continue promoting their television shows and their media, which most people these days pretty much aren't interested in anymore, because the viewpoints on many of these television shows, many of these movies, and many of these other programs that are produced by Big Six Media just don't appeal to people anymore, because people look at this media, they look at this content, and they're not seeing themselves reflected in a lot of this media. They're seeing ideas and values that are being pushed on them, values and ideas that are being imposed on them, and the reason why they are going to social media is because they are hearing views that reflect theirs. They are seeing ideas that reflect theirs, and they're being given an opportunity to explore different ideas and different concepts about different things that you wouldn't see in mainstream media. On mainstream media, oftentimes all we get in many cases of many different cultures, such as black men or men's issues, we really don't get a clear picture of them, because it's always pushed through the white liberal's lens, and under his lens, he does not like to see a positive portrayal of black men, and he does not want to see a positive portrayal of men's issues, because what happens in those cases is that it presents a counterpoint to his core demographic, which is women, and he does not want to alienate that core demographic of women and lose their support. And moreover, the sponsors don't want to lose the support of women because they are a large customer base. However, on social media, men have built a tremendous customer base, and they've built a tremendous audience, and that's what they're trying to eliminate, because they don't want to lose their female customer base, which spends money faster than men. Just like they also don't want to promote alternative lifestyles like those in the goth subculture, because that pretty much refutes many of the stereotypes they have there, and they want to pretty much silence those views, because if other alternative lifestyles start coming out, then they cannot push the mainstream as a narrative, or push stereotypes about people as a narrative. And when it comes down to black men, they also, when you have social media presenting groups of intelligent black men on YouTube, what happens is that also refutes their whole stereotype narrative of thugs and gangbangers, when you're starting to see more and more intelligent black men coming to the YouTube platform and presenting themselves and presenting a true story about themselves. That pretty much refutes the liberals' ideas about black men. So all those groups pretty much have been targeted because they're presenting counterpoints, and they don't like the idea of counterpoints being out there, because whenever you put a human face on things, then you cannot create a stereotype, and when you can't create a stereotype, you can't sell a product to people, or you can't tell people to be against a certain group. And that's what many of these advertisers want to do. They want to be able to pretty much divide people so they can conquer them and have them consuming their products and watching their programs. And YouTube pretty much does not allow them a chance to do that, because when people are broadcasting themselves, they are telling their stories, they are presenting their narrative, they are presenting their viewpoints. And what mainstream companies want to do is they want to silence that narrative, and they want to censor people so that they will continue believing their story is the only story. And that's why we're having this adpocalypse, and that's why they want to try to push people off of YouTube. But a lot of people aren't going to go anywhere, because they feel that, look, they want to continue producing content, they want to continue reaching audiences, and for some, this is not their primary source of income. And for those who feel that they are going to struggle with this, I urge them to stay in this, because there is a lot more at stake than just ad dollars. This is about maintaining freedom of speech, maintaining freedom of expression, and continuing to maintain a platform where a counterpoint can be presented, because that's what this adpocalypse is all about. It's all about silencing people and making sure that the mainstream view is the only view, even though those who are promoting a mainstream view are promoting on platforms that are becoming more and more obsolete, and the viewpoints they're presenting are proving to be more and more outdated, and there is no going back. As I see it, when it comes down to social media, the genie is out of the bottle, and there is nothing really that the Big Six can do to put it back in. You can donate to this channel by clicking the link for the PayPal or the Patreon in the description box, and you can help support this channel by buying one of my books by clicking the link in the description box.